dictionary, and that wasn't in the dictionary as
Wasn't
wasn't in.
major tool and
I've
ship
mentioned
building
a few
that.
like Vincent, never heard of it.
Yeah, sure, I'll be here early. Up at Leamington, and there was a compulsory purchase act on the land. So this was going to go the journey. I don't know if you had time to look at any of the photographs of the story there, but
No, not yet.
okay, that explains it in
Right.
detail. However, that's how the trust was set up, because they heard about it and they thought, wait a minute, we've got to stop historic vessels of this nature disappearing, along with our general maritime heritage and boat building skills, wooden boat building skills. So anyway, it was set up. This boat was purchased and was brought in here a year later, and it's all. Then we had to get the volunteers together, and of course, you've got to involve a workshop, funding, everything, and that's how we started. However, we didn't immediately start on the lifeboat because it requires a lot of skills. And we developed our skills otherwise by having smaller projects like rebuilding cobles and of that nature.
And dinghies and things.
And smaller dinghies we have, yep. However, then we grew from there, and we're now focused back on full steam ahead on the lifeboat. And bearing in mind that we're all volunteers, we're not professional boat builders. We're all different walks of life. We've got, you name it. We've got chiropodists, we've got male nurses, we've got accountants, we've got ex-skippers. I'm a retired marine engineer. Everybody from all walks. But the main ingredient is you're just passionate about what you're doing. 1917, so she's nearly 100 years old.
1917.
Yeah. It was, the story of it is probably explained better out there with all the photographs and things.
So it would be built during the First World War?
1917. Yeah. And it was in service for 32 years on the river here.
Right.
Here,
Yeah.
that's being screwed on rather than nailed on, but there's another sort of panelling behind it, isn't it? It's actually screwed onto, so it's screwed onto
Yeah.
a set of
What-
beams behind.
Yeah, what it is this build.
It just seems a huge number of kind of contact points that you've got there.
This build is called double diagonal,
Oh, it's riveted, isn't it?
and so it's got a layer underneath running that way,
Oh, I see. Now I understand.
and then a layer of planking going at diagonal
Right.
to that. You'll see that, and the only way that it's fastened, built 100 years ago, is with little copper rove nails.
Right.
I don't know if you're familiar with a copper rove nail, but it's these are old ones, but the system is still the same. You have a square-shaped copper nail,
Yeah.
and then there's a washer that goes down over the nail, like that. It's cut to length, and then the remaining section is then riveted over.
Will the copper stop getting barnacles
Ah,
on
right.
the top? Because copper is obviously
Copper is, yeah, I
poisonous
agree.
heavy metal. It's
But
often used for that purpose.
it is often used for that, but that's primarily not the reason why they used it.
So each piece
It
of
was-
wood has to be sewn.
These haven't been steamed, but this one and they've been steamed. We've got a steamer around there. They sit in the steamer there for maybe an hour, and then we will put them on a former on a plank, clamped and wedged to take the shape, and then it gets offered up to the boat. Okay, Kevin. All right, mate. All right.
And how do you kind of seal them all together? To the UPVC glue? Which
No,
is
there's
being
no,
used or something
it's
special?
all done authentically as far as possible. In between the two planking is a membrane of calico,
So they're just
All right.
like on the old ships, are they?
which is
Okay.
this heavy linen,
Heavy linen.
which is impregnated with white lead and a putty in between the two. That then gives you, because if you see where they cross over, for instance, if we take an area where one plank there crosses over the other, theory there would be a hole.
Yes. Yes.
So there's a membrane in between the two, and that gives it its
And that's what waterproof membrane is, the rubber
Once it's
membrane.
impregnated with the white lead and the putty.
Oh, putty. Alright. The putty won't rot with time. It won't. It's an oil-based thing, so it'll stay
We're
there.
actually using butyl, which is a modern derivation from the putty, so it just stays softer much longer. The putty actually, I mean, it's only chalk and linseed oil. The linseed oil will eventually get soaked into the timber, and you're just left with the chalk, it's like white lead. That stops it drying out.
So what do you use now instead of white lead?
Well, we're trying to get. Well, this is why we've gone to the butyl, because butyl 66 is. You would look at it and say it's putty, but it's a modern putty where that's it there, but it stays softer for much longer. And it's not so chalky.
Every 5 or 6 years, they have to come and retreat the hull. They have to do that in service.
The hull was the hull is painted, and it was when
that just
it was
seals
new.
everything in.
Yeah. So we've been sponsored by International Paints. So this will have a paint system of 3 coats of primer, a watery coat first, 3 coats of International Yacht Primer, 2 coats of what they call pre-coat, which is undercoat, and then 2 coats of gloss. So that's a 7-coat paint system that's going on. They didn't have that in 1917. I think it might be a bit too shiny when it comes out to you, actually, but
Put that on the last cap.
yeah, here was Honduras mahogany, which is not available now.
What do you use instead?
So this is still mahogany, but it's a Kea mahogany. It's a West African mahogany, but it's
You're still using mahogany?
yeah. I mean, there have been repairs done on these sort of boats, and they
And so
used,
this is
bark
oak.
or something of that nature.
That's oak down there.
This is oak. Yeah. This is oak here. It's scarfed there, but you'll see that there's a curve right round there. So we select. You'll see some of the oak that we've got stored down there. We've been up to timber merchants and so on with our templates and get these grown crooks of oak. You know?
You look for the trees that have got big branches, as you see.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Solid piece.
this boat, I mean, built this way, is it like a sort of specialist build for a specialist purpose, you know, or was that the normal way they would build a boat then? You know,
There it was.
it seemed to be very well built.
Yeah. It was. Bearing in mind what a lifeboat did in those days.
So it was made to withstand.
Oh, tremendously strong.
So a normal boat wouldn't be built like
It was
this.
tremendously strong, but at the same time, comparatively light.
Yeah.
It was built out. If it was, say, cardboard built out of massive, great, thick planks, it would be a very heavy boat. Having said all that, this was 12.5 ton. This boat, because they had, yeah.
And so did it have a steam engine or a petrol?
No, originally it had a petrol paraffin Tyler engine, but it was only, although it was a massive, great, long-stroke engine with a huge flywheel, it only delivered 40 horsepower. In the 60s, that was taken out. When it was privately owned, it was taken out and they put in a BMC Commodore, which is that engine down there actually, just on the left-hand side, which we've overhauled. That one there is nearly 60 horsepower. Bearing in mind, of course, that she had 10 oars, 3 sails,
Oh dear, good.
and an engine. She was not that manoeuvrable.
No, I was going to say, is this like a early stabiliser type thing on either side?
Be for maybe to slide it or whatever.
These
Or is it
are,
for sliding?
yeah,
For sliding down the
they're
ramps?
just bilge keels.
Yeah.
Inside this cast iron keel, there's also a huge, great drop keel because of the sail that she had.
Right.
So she was a hybrid because
Right.
it was the time that they were realising how very, very important it was to have an engine in a lifeboat
Right.
and not oars and a sail.
Right.
So they would drop the keel out at sea, then put it down
Yeah.
when they came in.
Yes. Once she was in deep enough water, they would lower the drop keel.
So where was it kind of housed, or did it float? Did it go into a house or whatever? You know?
Yeah,
And
she would be drawn up into a lifeboat
And
hut,
the
if you like.
and
up
the
a
ramp. So,
Yeah.
Edwin, so that'll be for to help slide
Yes,
down the
sliding
ramp.
up and down the ramps, yeah.
So,
yeah.
aye.
I thought they maybe
So where was that it then? You know,
The
the
lifeboat
actual
station
lifeboat house.
No, do you know the other side of the river at all?
Yeah.
It was by Clifford's Fort.
Right.
And
So there's
roughly-
a little one at Colour Coach. It wasn't there.
No. This
Right.
one was at,
This was at the town itself.
on the town itself. Yeah, it was. As I say, there's a lifeboat station across there, and
Right.
it's roughly thereabouts. You know,
Right.
where the current lifeboat station is.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Ah, right.
It was. There's a little pier that's made of great big bolts of timber called a wave trap.
Right.
And it was just on the corner of that, where the wave trap joins the land. The boathouse was just in the corner there.
Right. It's quite big,
Aye. Yes.
especially if you're going to row it.
It's,
It would be very difficult.
I was just saying your colleague there was on the Reaver. The Reaper.
the Reaper.
The Reaper,
Oh,
yeah, it was down at Whitby.
all right.
I think it could be even about that size or even smaller. The Reaper.
It is. It's smaller than the Reaper.
Smaller?
I've seen the Reaper.
Yeah.
The Reaper's how long? About 80 foot long, isn't it?
So how long is this one?
I can't remember now. I should know all these dimensions.
Come out on the boat and experience it.
Very interesting.
So what have I missed, Edwin? Oh, there's a seal. I'm taking a picture.
Nothing.
And this is little.
Think of the boat.
The big hole underneath there, that's where the chain is attached, which is used for pulling the boat up the ramp.
The big hole.
You see the big hole in the
No,
keel?
that's where.
I'm not quite sure.
Inside there is where the propeller went.
Oh, of course, the wrong way
Okay,
round.
see the small hole.
I can see
Ah, you mean the one up
Propeller
there?
shaft
And
comes
this is
out
the
there.
keel. Coming down.
This pier is the stern post on which was the rudder.
All right, okay. I'm sorry, yes. Yeah, run on the end. Yeah, of course.
I can just get by the photographer here.
I'm going to have a look at the engine.
Yeah, the propeller was sat in this tunnel right back there. The reason being is that, of course, when you think of what the duty of the boat was, with going to shipwrecks and things,
If there's anything in the water, it gets
absolutely,
caught in the
yeah, ropes, debris, everything.
Doesn't seem a big propeller.
It's 17 inches,
All right.
it's this diameter,
Right.
but she was not a massive horsepower. The original engine was 40 horsepower.
Yeah.
The engine that's going to go in it is 60 horsepower.
So is it that engine that's going back in?
Yes. Yeah, that engine's been completely overhauled.
Right, I'm going to have a look at it.
This would be a screw inside, so it's running along here with a screw.
BMC.
There's a light frame there. There are two strings in the boat. You better see it actually going out from inside the boat. These here are brackets and supports for the tunnel arrangement in here, which again is easy to explain from inside the boat. This section here is what we call the whale back, which is really like the roof of the after section.
At the front. At the
So-
front?
No.
At the back?
For the after
Ah, right.
section, yeah. This goes on obviously up the other way and goes on top of the boat there.
I know, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's one at the front and one at the front and the back. And for two things, I mean, there was storage and shelter inside, but also they were an airtight compartment.
Oh, that was
So that you gave you your reserve buoyancy. So she was a virtually unsinkable and self-righter lifeboat. Below the floor level inside were about 120 buoyancy boxes. So there was no space underneath the floor. It was just all these boxes that were all beautifully built.
Were the wooden boxes?
They were wooden boxes encased in canvas and tarred, so that if you hit a rock or something like that, you would only broach the side of the boat, I say one box or two boxes, and you had all that reserve buoyancy left.
So it could still wouldn't sink. It would
No.
still, even if it was full of water.
Well,
it
only
would.
a small
wouldn't-
area would get.
Exactly, absolutely. It wouldn't fill the rest of the boat because it was
Right.
unable to because
Yeah,
of all these
yeah,
boxes in it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's clever, that.
Yeah. Also on the outside of her, she had a huge great fender up to the top edge. The fender was probably a radius of about 2 foot. So that again was a self-righting, big cork fender.
Right.
That again was a self-righting one. She has with that as well.
So will you be able to put that back?
Well, we don't have the original.
Is it rubber? Is it
No, it was cork.
cork?
It was cork.
Yeah, to rebuild it.
We will have to rebuild it. Yeah, we might have to cheat a little bit.
Yeah.
as to
So
what
was the cork covered with canvas or something?
cork was
So you
covered
could put some other material under and it would still look
cork
the
was
same.
covered in canvas. Yes,
Right.
It was. Yeah.
I'm looking at these. Were any of these built up at Amble? At Harrison?
That one was.
That was.
Yeah.
Right.
That was built in
Used to go-
1974 up there.
1974.
Yeah.
We used to go there in the 60s to Harrison's boatyard.
Yeah.
And at that time, I'm just trying to think about the year. It would be the middle. It would be actually nearly the 50s where they started building fiberglass ones.
As early as
Yeah, Harrison's. It was just the start of the fiberglass. Had a little dinghy, smaller than that, fiberglass.
So what we try to do in here is to do all the aspects of the boat building ourselves. One of the things that we've done, you'll see behind me, is a forge.
Yeah,
Let me have a look. These are the keel bolts that come out of. Is this on all the time?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it-
well,
oh,
well,
I see. Oh, right, I see you holding it there.
I'll go down in history.
I'll go down.
Camera.
You'll notice that there's about a 3-ton cast iron keel on this boat, because she was a sailing boat as well, and again you massive stability with that there. But the keel was held onto the boat with 30 odd keel bolts, and that's one of the old keel bolts.
Right.
But you'll see that between there and there,
Spain, yes.
where it goes through the cast iron.
So
is
where are the
actually- is
cast iron bits now? Are they still on the boat?
It's the cast iron keel.
Right, is
Yeah,
it? Oh,
yeah,
right,
cast iron
right.
keel.
I thought it was oak. Right, right.
No, this is why this is significant. There's a cast iron keel, and you notice the bolt is perfectly okay between there and there, which is the cast iron keel.
Right.
From then on, it goes to the oak,
Right.
and you'll notice that all the corrosion is
Oak's
taken there.
bad for the
There are
metal.
some there that they're wafer thin, and it's the tanning in the oak that will attack the steel, and that's what's happened there. So these are quite a problem to get back out, because if you drive it from that end, all you'll do is just fold the bolt and jam it in the hole. So we adopted an idea. We drilled and tapped the bottom, and then we put a jack on the bottom while somebody was hitting the top as well, so it's come out, fairly straight. Then we needed to make these. So you noticed at the end is forged wrought iron, and the end is forged that shape that sits up inside the keel. So we then built our own forge. I brought the anvil and the stand back from Wiltshire in the back of my car. We made the swage block, which is this here, so that we could manufacture then our own keel bolt.
Right.
Right.
So is that all one piece?
Well, the first one took First one probably took about a day.
I can imagine, yes.
But
I can
after
imagine.
that,
Right.
after
Yeah,
that,
you've done a wonderful job, I can tell
after
you.
that we were doing all right. But you see there, so we'd heat the end of the rod up in there, and then we would what they call jumping up.
Upset it.
Steel there,
Aye.
yeah. Putting it down into there, hitting it, getting the shape, back in again. So you know, a repetitive
You
operation.
have to keep the shutter down when you're using that, presumably.
We
Yeah,
we did have a bit of a problem, but we did put the chimney up, and we've got a flap that we open there as well.
Oh, wow, that's
So once it
helpful,
gets
yeah.
going, then the natural draft of it is quite good.
Yeah.
So we were able to say, yeah, okay. So we made our own keel bolts,
Right.
which I think was quite an
So-
achievement, really.
So will you put any protection on to stop the oak?
Yeah, the keel
that's-
bolts they have cure rusted, which oxidizes any rust on there. That's why
Right.
it's gone black like that. Then it gets sprayed with an etch primer. Then it gets coated in the butyl putty and gets wrapped in cotton, and then it goes up into.
So it'll not touch the wood.
Yeah, that's the theory. We'll see in 100 years' time when it comes back in. We'll see.
Maybe so. Now what I want to know is where you bought that French chalk.
Oh, French chalk. I've seen that for long.
I know.
One of the lads came
Used to
down with a
buy-
box full from the shipyards.
Aye, lucky him.
Yeah.
Oh, my dad always used to have it, didn't they?
These two guys, they came from Australia, and when we were having our lunch out here, and one day they came across and they were talking about this boat that was bent in half, and I thought they were a couple of crackpots, but they turned out to be two quite famous contemporary artists. And they came up with this boat that they'd had. They wanted it to return, as in boomerang, to the UK. It was a boat that was designed.
Boomerang inside, aren't you?
Yeah,
That's where it comes from.
Yeah, it was actually it was a skiff designed by an Olympic oarsman. However, we said, yeah, sure, we'll have it. They fell in love with the gable end. They fell in love with the location, and they said, would we take care of it?
So on the inside, you could sit and you could row, and it would go round and round.
It is exactly the same as a
They're
full skiff.
incredibly thin, aren't they?
Yeah.
Narrow.
Yeah.
All right.
There's some
But
pictures.
if you rowed it that would go round in the
Yeah,
circle.
Oh, no, you couldn't.
I'm getting
Get it
the
Australia.
easiest way to explain it is to have a look.
You'd have to be in Australia.
Have a look at the photographs over there,
Right.
because that's where they put it in the water and tried to row it. Go and have a quick look at the photos, and I'll have a swig of water.
So this is now contemporary art. Sorry, Brian.
It's amazing. It looks bigger, wider there when you're sitting in than it does on the wall.
So it floated.
It's like a boomerang. It can only go round in a circle.
Boomerang makes a big splash.
The boomerang makes a small turn.
He looked wet.
It costs a fair bit to make that. And I've grown it.
Oh well, here we are outside. This is the Mary Young. It was built at Harrison's in Amble. D. Parker.
Another possible threat to the coven would be a new round of grants to get owners to
We're now going to have a look inside the lifeboat.
To keep the shape of the boat while we worked on it.
Because this is all rotten, you said, the front.
Yes,
all
yeah.
rotten, yeah.
It's all rusted, yeah. You can't see any previous. It's all been covered up now.
You've got plenty G clamps.
Oh, not enough. Not enough
You
at all.
cannot have too many clamps.
I'll be using these nippers.
As I say, it's
I'll
got
come down dry next
it's
time.
got metal
I can look over.
strengthening bars.
Oh
I
yes,
can look
yes.
over.
it's
So
all
are they
right, yeah.
kind of been original, or were they in the original? Oh, but
We've made all the ones painted up. We've made.
Right.
Actually, I don't think we made them quite all of them. I think a couple of towards us are originals, but certainly that bow one, we fabricated that up. You get a bit of angle iron and you cut notches out of
Right.
it and weld them up until you get shape. Those are quite easy. Those ones, well, relatively easy. There's some very complex ones. If you look down, I don't know if you can see. I think this is just a workbench.
is that where the engine will go there? Is it?
No, the engine sits in here.
Ah, right.
They're the engine beds.
Right.
So the engine sits on there,
Right.
and the propeller is in
All right. The
in that
propeller's
duct,
in there.
in that
aye.
duct, and that's. Do you see the metal reinforcement?
Yeah.
That was quite difficult to make that up.
Right.
We originally were getting some made commercially, but they were so expensive. We decided to make
So
them
you,
ourselves.
you made that framework up.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
As I say, basically getting a bit of angle iron and literally sawing it every few inches
Right.
and bend it round and then fill it up with weld.
Aye.
Yeah.
It used to be a specific trade that it was anglesmiths.
Yes.
That's all they did. They worked on heavy blocks, and then they would heat them up, and then some of them had like hydraulic ram to bend the things
to bend it.
on
Oh.
blocks,
Oh,
right?
right.
And that was a specialist trade, anglesmith. Yeah,
Anglesmith. All right. Well, we fudge it, but I mean it's the same end result.
yeah. Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah. Anglesmiths.
The steam, the timber. Here it is. Here. Ah,
I'll be about.
so the little heater, and it's heating this.
Yeah. Don't touch it, but that's our safety valve, the tip. If your bow's too big, fingers.
Correct. Yeah. Well.
Pops off.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought. Right. That's very interesting. It's a steam box. Right. Thank you.
Are you away now, are you? went with the